In this episode, we discuss X Corp's recently filed lawsuit against advertisers for what it calls an illegal boycott. And we'll discuss Ice Cube's flirtation with figures like Tucker Carlson, and particularly in light of his legacy in hip hop music and the kind of music he's made, and also his legacy in hip hop culture. Hello, welcome to the Call Like I See It podcast. I'm James Keys, and riding with me today is a man who many of you have heard of. Who else but Mama's only son, Tunde Ogunlana. Tunde, are you ready to tell us why we can expect no more pain?
Yep. All right. Maybe I'll bring the rain. Let's see.
That was last week, man.
I know, but I'm just thinking, is it better to be the only son or the prodigal son?
Hey, well, you know, we'll have to sort that out.
Maybe I got to talk to Mama about that. Let's see.
All right. Now, we're recording this on August 11th, 2024. And last week, we saw Elon Musk's X Corp, which is formerly Twitter, sue a collection of advertisers for what it calls an unlawful boycott. And the lawsuit essentially contends that these advertisers together, working together, are operating as a monopoly and using that power to collectively decide to not buy ads from Twitter. And that's unfair. Now, the stated reason for the advertisers has been just that they don't believe that Twitter or X and what goes on there is brand safe anymore. That their brands, they don't want to risk being associated with it, whatever the kind of content that their brands might be pushed next to or things like that. So now we have, a free speech, a self-proclaimed free speech absolutist. Now, whether he actually is, that is another story. But suing people in business for refusing to do business with him, or to refusing to engage in the kind of speech that he wants them to engage in. So, Tunde, get us started. Just what's your reaction to this recent lawsuit? What stands out? With Musk apparently seeking to punish advertisers for not doing business with him.
I'd say my first reaction as I was preparing for this is I realized when I finally give, after all these years, over a decade, the Supreme Court credit for allowing corporations to be seen as people. Remember all that? Because I realized now they do have freedom of speech like us, and that means this lawsuit should be put in the dustbin of history. I think that this is un-American. They're just by its spirit. Trying to coerce and force private companies into paying basically a VIG or some sort of, almost like a protection bracket, like this guy was some mafia don in Queens in the 1950s or something, telling some deli guy that owns a deli, like, hey man, you better, if you don't pay up this week, it's going to be bad for you. And so, I think that this isn't the time when Elon Musk is exposed. I think he's been exposed a long time ago as basically a fraud on this idea of freedom of speech and that he's going to protect it. I think this is just another example that, he is what he is. He appears to be an authoritarian who, is grandiose. And you know what I do appreciate, and I'll hand it back, that he was honest, it appears, at some point in the recent years when he acknowledged he's got Asperger's syndrome live. And he strikes me as a guy that is on the spectrum of something like that. And so that's not me trying to be a medical doctor or diagnose a guy on TV. I'm just going by what he says. So it appears evident that he's making moves in public that don't seem to be that cohesive and don't seem to be well thought out, period.
Well, I mean, I think it also just reflects kind of the idea of, like might makes right, so to speak. Because, from a legal standpoint, when you first sent this to me, like you saw this before I did, and it was laughable to me. It was just like, you got to be kidding me. And now this type of claim is not like something that on its face, this type of claim, not what's happening here, but this type of claim on its face is just going to be without merit no matter what. Like you're in a situation, and we'll have stuff in the show notes. They give examples like, okay, you're in a small town and all the car dealerships in that town decide, hey, we're not going to advertise at the newspaper because they're publishing unbiased reviews or, something like that. Like that's the type of thing where you might have an antitrust type of situation where you have entities working together in a way that would be anti-competitive. In this instance, it's laughable because this one group of advertisers is not every advertiser in the whole world or every advertiser in the whole country or, whatever it is. And this is a group that is based overseas, and there's several companies that are overseas companies with this. So like to try to suggest that they're behaving in a way that's monopolistic when there's all these other people that aren't a part of this is laughable to me. So, but setting aside that, a couple of interesting points. But one of the things you brought up to me when we first talked about this was, oh, well, did he file it? I see he filed it in Texas. So was he able to get one of the judges that Trump put in that's supposed to be very friendly to and give rulings to conservatives, whenever they file in these courts, similar to Judge Cannon in Florida, there's a couple of them in Texas. And from what I saw, the answer is yes. Like he did get this in front of one of the judges that allow these things to go further than they will and so forth. So whether or not he's able to make some hay with the lawsuit, and what makes some hay meaning win, probably not, but cost these guys a lot of money in legal fees and embarrass them, try to take discovery, try to find things that are like embarrassing about them and make them public and so forth. He can use it as a tool of harassment, like in this instance. And so that's like, okay, well, I have a lot of money. I might as well send my lawyers after you and try to actually to secure some kind of concession from you, even though I ultimately may not win in court. It's really not the type of society that we would want to put forward for people who really do believe in freedom of speech and that business can make decisions for their own and the best, what they believe is in the best interest of their products and their branding and so forth. So yeah, it's completely inconsistent with the man the guy says he is. But as you pointed out, this is like he's been being inconsistent with the man he says he is for a while now.
Yeah. Well, let me add in there because this isn't in a vacuum. We use the word harassment, which I think is very appropriate because this is coming off the heels. There's a little bit of hand in glove here and a symbiotic nature between certain parts of our Congress and those who are, influential in certain ecosystems online and in certain media spaces. So this all came off the back of a House Judiciary Committee finding. So the House of Representatives in Congress, the Judiciary Committee had an investigation. It looked like it was, like they already, just like they've done in other things in the recent years, like spending 18 months and all this our time and taxpayer dollars and their own attention, which they should be paying to things like legislating things in the future, on investigating the Biden crime family, so to speak, and trying to impeach him with all that just falling apart because there was nothing there. So here, I'm going to quote a bit from an article we'll have in the show notes. The House Judiciary Report rejects the idea that advertisers left Twitter because of alleged hate speech or concerns about brand safety, claiming they did so as a part of a plot to use their marketing dollars to silence certain disfavored views. And what I realize is the problem we have right now in the United States is we are being held hostage by some people who are colluding in our political class and in people like Elon Musk on the business class side that I think they're just paranoid. I mean, think about it. They said that the House Judiciary Committee is saying that these people are trying not to advertise because they're trying to silence some voices or something. The whole point is they don't want to believe that maybe a U.S. citizen like me just doesn't want to deal with people using the N-word and Nazis saying anti-Semitic stuff, and that there's a lot of corporations that might want to sell stuff to a guy like me. And they probably don't want to be advertising on platforms where their ad will be right next to something that would offend someone like me. And that doesn't mean, and this is where I think Elon Musk goes sideways with this whole thing about freedom of speech. That doesn't mean a guy like me is trying to silence Elon Musk at all. I don't care what he does. He can have his platform and drive it into the ground like he's done. But it's just that the fact that now we have a congressional committee that is also giving fuel to the fire of this meme that these woke corporations somehow are attacking the speech of others. And in this case, to your point, it's so convoluted because it's basically saying that by them exercising their freedom of speech to choose where they advertise, by not advertising on Twitter, is somehow attacking Twitter and people on the right. So it's just like many things that have happened.
Well, but like you said, the paranoia, because you choose what to hear. Like that finding from the House Judiciary Committee came after those entities testified that that's what they were concerned about. So they said, okay, well, you said you were concerned about X, Y, and Z. Well, we find that you weren't. And it's like, well,
exactly.
It's like, you decide this.
But you know what
like,
it is too, James? Like they don't want to acknowledge that people within kind of the culture that they promote and that they are, they're seeking votes from in Congress, and people like Elon Musk seem to want attention from the public, that those people are bigots. That they like it's okay if they're bigots, and just accept that most of American corporations won't want to advertise there. And you can have your space. Yeah. But don't disrupt the rest of us by trying to force everybody onto those spaces when we don't want to be there. Period.
Well, and I think particularly using these types of mechanisms disingenuously, because, you talk about the hand in glove, but like going in on that a little bit more, it's very conceivable that that Judiciary Committee hearing was put forth because Musk tried to get it put forth. Like that he was a part of saying, hey, I want you guys to go do this. And then I'm going to use this, if I can, to try to file a lawsuit. So it becomes this harassment campaign using the levers of government to try to bully people into buying stuff from this guy.
Are you telling me they're weaponizing the government? All the people that say that it's always been weaponized against them?
The government to try to bully people to buy stuff from Elon Musk. And so, and that's really like, okay, so what kind of country are we going towards now? Where it's like, okay, well, if you don't go, like you said, pay your protection fee from Elon Musk, then you're going to get drawn in front of House committees. You're going to get, lawsuits filed against you, against judges that even though they should get thrown out right away, that judge will let it play out and let it go to trial because he's been put in to ensure that this type of stuff happens. And so, yes, it's the weaponization of the government that many people claim to fear. It seems like they're just projecting on what they're trying to do with the government and use the government to try to get these means together for whatever worldview they're trying to force on other people. And I think it's important, though, as you indicated, to indicate or to kind of note that the goal here of our conversation is not to say that these voices shouldn't be out there anywhere. It's just to say freedom of speech does not mean that there aren't going to be consequences for the speech from a commercial standpoint. It says there's going to be no consequences from a legal jeopardy standpoint. You won't go to jail for saying certain, saying, hey, I disagree with this person, or I think this person's wrong, or something like that. But people can choose not to do business with you because of the things you say. And that's not a part of freedom of speech. Say, hey, I don't like the way this person talks about these people, so I'm not going to do business with them anymore. There's no freedom of speech protection from that. Like, that's the point, is that you should be able to do those things, and then other people should be able to respond to what you say by deciding if they want to engage with you. So it's really, I don't know if it's a misunderstanding of freedom of speech, or if it's more of it, like you said, like the kind of mindset of like a domineering authoritarian type of mindset, saying, hey, my way is the way that everybody should believe what I say. So therefore, if you try to discount what I say, then there's going to be consequences to you for that. And, here are the consequences, so to speak. You're going to have to spend money on lawyers. You're going to have to fight these lawsuits in front of judges that were specifically put there to allow me to do this and draw this out and so forth. And like I said, we got to see firsthand, with Judge Cannon, in terms of how putting a judge in a place like that really allows people to get secure legal rulings that ultimately may be reversed, but also can allow you to drag out something or to really get somewhere with the law that you really shouldn't be able to get there, because you put judges in that are sympathetic to your cause at best, like saying it very generously is that they're sympathetic.
Well, you know what? It reminds me a lot. I mean, it's kind of like we're in this era where there's some people at the top of our political world, some people on the top of the business world. And they like the attention they get from the media. Like, I think of someone like Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox News and News Corp. He's the opposite of Elon Musk. He's the type of guy that seems like he doesn't want to be in the spotlight, and he's very quiet, and you don't hear from him, and he makes his billions. So Elon Musk clearly is a type of guy that got wealthy, and he wants the whole world to know it and know what he thinks, and he forces everyone to, have to opt out of getting his Twitter feeds and all that. So, but what he reminds me a lot like Donald Trump, meaning here's a guy, obviously different, but Donald Trump ran casinos into the ground, right? And showed that when his business or
the
certain
one business
things are,
that prints money no matter where it goes, like casino.
Exactly. So
everybody, the house always wins except.
That's that's another show. Stay tuned, audience. We might do that one to have some fun. But it's just that the kind of mindset again that as whenever someone like Trump has something that's failing, is always, I'm going to blame someone else. And, the numbers that I've researched are that Musk bought Twitter for roughly around $44 billion. And the current valuation is roughly around $12.5 billion. And the reason why that those can be trusted numbers is because firms like Fidelity Investments are still shareholders in the private X Corporation.
Yeah.
So they, as part of their own disclosures, because they're publicly traded, they produce the valuation
what they believe the value is of their portion.
The investments they have. So the thing is that here's a guy that bought a company.
You mean that's not just something that the state of New York made Trump do? Like everybody has to do that?
Again, another show. These guys are so prolific. There's just too much, I guess, for us to, I know I'm trying to stay focused here, which is rare for me. So don't derail me here.
Yes, I apologize. but it's just such a common thing. Like,
exactly. But here's the thing. So he destroys the valuation of his own company that he bought by about 72% in 18 months, maybe, since he bought it. And so instead of like looking internally, like someone like me or you that we're entrepreneurs and own our business, have to look in the mirror when things don't go well, he wants to lash out and blame everyone else. And that's why I said with even this, he's got Congress now. And think about it. He's the richest guy in the world that wants us all to know who he is. And he wants to control media and wants to control this and that. So clearly, anyway, he's throwing his money around. Like we remember he announced, whether he's going to do it or not, who knows? But he announced he's going to give Trump $45 million a month until the election. So who knows what kind of money he's dangling in front of the Congress people behind the scenes of, I'm going to fund your campaign and, I'll give you 10 million over here. Just like his friend Peter Thiel funded J.D. Vance's Senate candidacy by $15 million or with $15 million. So what's happening is these guys are oligarchs buying politicians. Yeah. And what he did is he bought people on the Congress to have this sham investigation into this collusion and this antitrust stuff as a way to try and be cute.
That's what it looks like.
Because because you know what? He doesn't want to have to deal with the fact that he drove his company into the ground and actually do the hard work and the heavy lifting to get it back to where it needs to be. Because I'll give Musk all the credit in the world.
Concessions that, hey, maybe the type of environment you said that you thought people wanted in that spot, actually people just don't want.
Or the people that want it.
Oh, go ahead.
Can't afford to advertise in a way that keeps you propped up. Maybe Kid Rock and Hulk Hogan want to advertise on there, but they don't got deep pockets like Disney and Coca-Cola. And Disney and Coca-Cola don't want to be on a platform that has open anti-Semitism and racism and all that kind of stuff, period. And it's just, I wonder if the Ku Klux Klan's going to throw a lawsuit in that Disney doesn't advertise with them either.
Yeah. I mean,
that'll be interesting if this.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely requires you to suspend a level of belief, though, because and this is the kind of the last point I wanted to make is that Musk kind of takes this antagonistic view towards quote unquote the mainstream, or even, I mean, he said told the advertisers to go F themselves, all this, but he takes this antagonistic view and then turns around and says, well, why aren't all you guys throwing money at me? And it's like, well, I mean, aren't you antagonizing the same people that you're saying should be throwing money at you the whole time? And, it all goes back to this level of entitlement that some people walk around with, and honestly, it does seem like a level of entitlement can be helpful in many respects in finding success, depending on who you are and what you look like, at least. But a level of entitlement, like this lawsuit relies on the idea that Twitter or X is entitled to this money. And by denying the advertisers paying this money, they are harming them. They are wronging them. And, people banding together. I mean, and again, it's laughable that these people would be a monopoly when it's one group amongst the thousands or millions of potential advertisers out there that have decided, hey, we just don't think we like to advertise in places where it would be non-controversial. And if you want to be antagonistic and controversial, then that's probably not the place for us. And that's not something that from a corporate, sterilized, branding standpoint is something that we've never heard of. Like that seems pretty normal from the way corporations operate, And so to me, you see the level of entitlement that somebody walks around with, and then you see them. The problem with that, obviously, like you can walk around entitled, but the problem with that is that the use of the government to and the commandeering of the government to one man's entitlement. And so, yeah, you raised a good word there. You brought up a good word, oligarchy. You in the sense that that's where we're going down a road, conceivably, potentially, where that's the kind of thing that is happening. Basically, is you have the money, the might makes it right. Like, hey, if you have the money, you can make the government do this for you, make the government do that for you. You can. Next thing you know, he'll be having the government, do something to Facebook, or having the government do something to TikTok, so that he can get more of the users he's entitled to as well. And so this mentality is just very anti-American, And
Yeah.
I mean, hey, maybe he didn't grow up with the same values that many Americans did, because the guy grew up in a place that was not about American values. He grew up in a place.
Can I address that real quick?
Well, we got to jump, but if
no, I know, but here's what I was going to say right there. I wrote it down. We got a South African guy in his 50s who grew up under the apartheid regime, who has shown us that he's been supportive by reposting tweets about the Great Replacement Theory and about things like eugenics.
Yeah.
So I do think that he wants a platform that is bigoted and is upset that most of American companies don't want to advertise on it. So you're right, James.
Yeah, and again, it's not because it's like, and there may be people at these companies that agree with him, maybe some that disagree with him or whatever, but it's just generally speaking, the big corporations in this country and around, just when we see these big companies, they like to be in non-antagonistic, non-controversial spaces, and they like to be the
business.
Yeah, exactly.
For all these guys that say they're into business and making money.
Exactly.
That stuff doesn't make money, and he's losing money because of it. But that's but
I think we can close this topic from there. We appreciate everyone for joining us. Join us for topic, we'll have a second topic coming up here shortly, and we'll see you then.